Hello, welcome to Your Health is Your Greatest Wealth. I'm Blanca, and I'm very excited to have Barry Bevier, who has been a guest with us here before. And Barry, I had such a wonderful response to the episodes that we have done previously that you were highly requested. And so you came on the show and you talked a lot about stem cell nutrition as well as natural wellness and focus. What I would really like to ask you about today is how you became interested in brain health. So, with that, Barry, take it away.
All right. Well, actually, becoming interested was a bit of a journey that probably started about 15 years ago. Through a friend, I met a neuroscientist in San Diego, Dennis Manis, who had developed some sound healing techniques to the brain entrainment. He had a stroke. As a neurologist, he had a stroke and he developed this technique. And then he started working with stroke victims and kids with autism. And then I met John Asraf, and I met some other people involved in brain health, neurology, psychiatrists involved in brain health. And I ended up meeting Dr. Daniel Amen's wife, Tana, at a event I was attending. She was a speaker, and found out about him and what he did. And so I'm just, gradually learning about the brain. And in the meantime, seeing my peers and relatives and older people starting to have memory loss, and being involved in the natural wellness field, thinking, well, is it something in our lifestyle habits, or is it hereditary or just the natural aging process? And what I learned was there's a lot we can do to keep our brain focused and healthy as we get older.
So, I'm just really grateful that you know so much about the brain. This is going to be such an interesting conversation. And so you touched a lot about memory and aging. I know right now that whole topic of aging powerfully instead of aging gracefully is really at the forefront. So, talk to us a little bit more about how the whole aging and brain health is something that we can be an active part of.
Absolutely, because we certainly can take an active role in our brain, and what we do for our brain is good for the rest of our body. Uh, and so, where I gained most of this knowledge was in Dr. Amen's program. And, we learned a lot. And the program was put together for both natural wellness practitioners and for people like me that are just interested in natural wellness and brain health. So, we learned about brain physiology and the different functions of the brain and what contributes to brain aging and memory loss, and how to prevent it, certainly slow it down. And if someone has memory loss or has been diagnosed with dementia, Alzheimer's, actually be able to turn it around. And so part of the program was giving us information, actually presentations that we can use. There were three primary ones that I really like. One's called Brain Thrive by 25, and it's to teach younger people, high school and college age adults, young adults, why it's important to take care of your brain and get good sleep and drink enough water and avoid drugs and alcohol. And then there's a program for people in the workplace. And there's a program called Memory Rescue for older people that are either concerned about maintaining good brain health as they get older, or if they're already experiencing it, turn it around. And one thing I'd like to share is when you started the program, and it's the basis for Dr. Amen's work in his own clinics, is you do a brain type and a brain health survey. And so like we have blood types, well, there's different brain types, and we're all a combination of them. And I don't have time to go into that today, but we do a brain health survey, and it asks you questions about your current lifestyle and then about your past history. And I feel I'm in very good health for my age, and the habits that I've now developed through what I've learned primarily from Dr. Amen in the past few years, feel that I'm doing the right things to keep my brain healthy as I get older. And then it asks you questions about your past. Have you had any concussions or brain trauma or been exposed to toxins or, smoking or alcohol or recreational or pharmaceutical drugs? And so when I went back through that, I'd had a couple blows to the head when I was a kid, fell down a stairway, got hit in the head with a baseball bat. I grew up on a farm where I was exposed to farm chemicals and toxins. I did auto body work for a while and didn't have the proper protective respiratory equipment. So I was exposed to fumes there. And so in the past, did some things that weren't too good for my brain. And so it was great to learn that I can now reverse those and not have to worry about them being detrimental to me or as detrimental to me as I get older.
So Barry, something that you said really caught my attention. You mentioned sound healing. So can you expand a little bit about that and how it relates to brain health?
I am not a real expert in that, only that there's sound healing that people use with bowls. And sound and frequencies and vibrations have been used for healing in Eastern medicine for some time. And dentists develop these frequencies that go in and interact with the different parts of the brain that result in the brain healing itself. It's out there as a brain health modality, and it works.
I actually have had a guest, a mutual friend of ours, Tamna Sturdivant, that did talk about that. She didn't talk about it in the realm of brain health, but it has come up, frequency medicine. So I just wanted to connect the dots of how sound vibration, frequency, brain health, how it's all interrelated. So Barry, I'll bring it back to the memory rescue, the memory loss, the need for sleep. What is it that we can do with our lifestyle habits to just help promote brain health and maybe do a stopgap with the memory loss?
Sure. I mean, one of the first things in overall health, but I think especially in brain health, is mindset. A lot of people think that because just as you get older, because it's so predominant in the US now, I think statistics are that 50% of the people in the US over the age of 80 or 85 have some form of significant memory loss or have been diagnosed with dementia, Alzheimer's. And so people are thinking about that and they get the mindset of it's just something that's going to happen, or it's runs in their family. Grandma had dementia, dad had dementia, and that just doesn't have to be. So it's mindset that they're developing the mindset that we don't have to lose our brains, lose our mind as we get older, and that by some lifestyle changes, we can stop that from happening. So mindset is one. Sleep is very important, and I believe you've had someone on your show about sleep. We need 7 to 9 hours of sleep to heal our body and heal our brain. Our brain builds up toxins just like the rest of our organs do, and it takes about 7 hours for those toxins to clear out, and having the toxins out of your brain is important or more important than getting the toxins out of the rest of your body. And then certain hormones, especially human growth hormone, are generated while we sleep. And one interesting statistic, and it's also related to our circadian rhythm. And so one interesting statistic is 5 times the amount of human growth hormone is generated when you sleep for 7 hours, going to bed at 10 and getting up at 5, compared to going to bed at midnight and sleeping for 9 hours, 5 times. That's a lot. And human growth hormone is important in slowing the aging process and in maintaining good brain health as you get older. So sleep's important. Hydration is important. Dr. Amen did a study on one of his clients who was a bodybuilder and did a competitive bodybuilder. So he would dehydrate before a competition intentionally so he would have more muscle definition. And Dr. Amen did brain scans before he dehydrated. During the competition, when he was dehydrated, and afterwards, after he had rehydrated. And what he saw was that the brain in its dehydrated condition looked very much like the brain of a drug addict or an alcoholic. And so water is very important. Our brain is made up of 70 to 80% water. And so hydration is important. And then, clean eating, eating organic, eating a lot of fresh green vegetables, staying away from processed foods and sugars are another way that you can help doing it. And then exercise. Blood flow is one of the most important things in maintaining good brain health, because our brain needs blood to carry the nutrients, and it needs oxygen. And so exercise that keeps your cardiovascular system functioning well. Hyperbaric oxygen also helps. There's certain foods like beets help improve blood flow. So anything you can do that's good for your heart is good for your brain.
So, Barry, everything you're saying is so fascinating. One of the things I wanted to delve in a little deeper is when you mentioned mindset. It just seems like nowadays mindset is really coming to the forefront and being focused on by many individuals throughout many disciplines, whether it's sports, personal development. I'm glad you mentioned it in the realm of aging. And can you talk a little bit more about mindset and aging?
Sure. Well, I think, I recently moved to the East Coast. I've been in California, and, the area that I'm in, I've made the observation that people just have the mindset that as they get older, they're going to age. Uh, and, when you have the right mindset, when you have the mindset that it doesn't have to happen, that you can change it by eating better, by sleeping better, by exercising, all the things that we hear for overall wellness. But mindset is a part of it. And if you think you are going to get a disease, most likely you will. What we think about is how we become. Henry Ford has a great quote that I love. It's whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And so developing the mindset that it doesn't have to happen, that hereditary, sure, our genes have an effect on how our body ages, but we can overcome that by lifestyle habits. And so mindset's very important. First of all, that it doesn't have to happen, and secondly, that you can have the discipline to do it.
Mindset is something you can control. You can choose your own attitude and your own mindset about how you view the world and your health and your sovereignty and being empowered in doing things to help promote your own health.
And absolutely, and just being positive, waking up in the morning and telling yourself that you're going to have a great day, that it's going to be positive. And I think so many people just have a negative effect, and there's so much negative stuff out there in the media. I mean, I probably haven't watched a regular news program for 15 years. I get my news selectively off the internet, but there's so much negative out there, and what you read, what you listen to, what you watch is all going to affect our mindset. And so we've got to change how we allow the environment around us to affect our mindset, and stay positive, stay happy, stay joyful.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. You and I connect at so many different levels, including we're into personal development, mindset, masterminds. I happen to be privileged to be doing a mastermind with Brendon Burchard. And one of the things he did touch on is morning routines and how you wake up and your self-talk, and even how you talk to others. We start the morning by saying good morning. Just that word good sets the tone. Good morning, good evening. It's how you start your day and how you end your day, and your self-talk and the people you surround yourself all play into, as you said, a positive mindset. So thank you for pointing that out.
No, absolutely. And actually, I have a few friends that when they greet you in the morning, it's a grand morning. That's a good morning, a grand morning.
I love it.
And so I like that. So yeah, mindset and surrounding yourself with positive people is very important. I have a morning routine. I'm a spiritual person. I'm a Christian, and I get up in the morning and I pray. I read the Bible a little bit. I tap. I motion of freedom tapping. I do that every morning for at least an hour before I touch anything. I mean, I use some apps on my phone, so I use my phone, but I don't go to social media. I don't go to my texts or emails until I've gone through all that whole routine, which sets my positive mindset for the day. It keeps me positive.
You and I have actually talked about EFT in the past as well. We have both taken courses from Nick Orton, and I actually am also in touch with a hypnotherapist that has been a guest on this show that has also talked about EFT. So many wonderful modalities out there. Barry, you mentioned one thing that I am also very curious about. You mentioned hyperbaric oxygen. For those of us that don't know too much about that, can you tell us a little bit more about what that is?
Sure. And I think a lot of people associate hyperbaric oxygen with divers that have gotten the bends, but it's used in healing. It's a chamber, and there are various types, but it's a chamber that you lay in that is pressurized to about 2 times the atmospheric pressure with pure oxygen. And so most of the time when you do the therapy, it will be an hour. Some clinics use 2 hours. And so you're breathing 100% oxygen. So it's getting more oxygen into your blood flow and into your brain. And it's just a wonderful healing tool. It's being used more and more for wounds, for wound healing, and more for the brain. When I was in San Diego, I went to a health spa to work out with a personal trainer, and they focused on detoxing and overall wellness. And they had several hyperbaric chambers, and I use it on a regular basis. So it's good to maintain good health, and it's good to help you heal from something. And it's one thing that Dr. Amen uses with a lot of his patients and clients.
And so you mentioned the need for water, good nutrition, hyperbaric oxygen, toxins. That includes staying away from toxic people, surrounding yourself with good people.
Exactly. And let's talk about people as part of brain health too. But as far as toxins go, yes. And, there's toxins in the air we breathe, in the water we drink, unless we've got a really good filtration system. There's toxins in our everyday household products that we use. There's toxins in some cosmetic products and hair shampoo and those products. And there's toxins in our food. A couple really interesting examples, and I'll be quick with them. With Dr. Amen's talking about some of his patients, is there was a child that had some behavioral issues, and they'd been to a counseling for a couple of years, and it just wasn't getting resolved. And the parents finally took him to Dr. Amen's clinic, and he did blood tests. He did his whole toxic scan. And to make a long story short, what they found out was the kid was allergic to the red dye in red vines candy, the red licorice. And when he had it, he would be really obnoxious behavior. And when he didn't eat it, he was pretty normal. So he went through a detox program, got him off the food, and was a good kid again. And then there's another story about a guy at work that was having marital problems. Same thing, worked with counselor, wasn't happening to get their marriage back on track. Went to Dr. Raymond, found out he worked at a furniture factory and sprayed the finishes on furniture. And even though he had proper respiratory equipment, the toxins still build up in his body and affected his brain and his behavior. So when he detoxed, it was about a 3-month process to detox and get him back on track and get away from that job. So toxins can play a big role in brain health, and also infections. Sometimes infections can create brain behaviors that are not good and contribute to brain aging. As a matter of fact, sometimes toxins, a brain that has been affected by toxins is diagnosed as Alzheimer's or dementia. And discovering that and then detoxing can clear it up and get your brain back to a healthy condition.
That's just so interesting, Barry. You were also talking about toxins, brain trauma, brain health in general. I know we have had other discussions on brain trauma. Can you talk about that in the scope of Dr. Amen's teachings?
Sure. Brain trauma is it's a very important aspect of brain health. I mentioned I had a couple bonks to the head. Our brain is soft like butter, and our skull is hard and bony, and it has some bony ridges inside, and then the brain is surrounded by a fluid. So it's not solid in there, it can move around. So having a blow to the head, even if you're wearing a helmet, can create some brain trauma, or just something like whiplash from an auto accident, or a sharp movement. Your brain is moving around, and that happening chronically can be an issue in brain health. And I mentioned to you that I had met Mary Seau, who is the sister of Junior Seau, an NFL football player, and he committed suicide. And it was from traumatic brain injury that had not been treated properly after he finished playing. And so even though he was wearing a helmet all the time, he still suffered brain damage. And that's what's important about this Brain Thrive in 25 with kids, is to teach them about brain trauma. And interesting, because kids playing sports, soccer, think of it, water polo, you're getting hit in the head with the ball all the time. Well, that's creating minor incremental brain trauma that can lead to serious problems later. And so, wearing a helmet isn't a solution. It keeps you from getting a concussion. Yes, it helps. It's not the final answer. And interesting, I've read lately where there's becoming a decrease of young athletes coming from higher upper middle class, I think the best words to say it, but upper middle class and educated people than there are lower class, less educated people. So it's that message is starting to get out there, and we need to spread it to everybody, because sports, especially sports that don't protect your head, can be very damaging to kids.
And so, Barry, in addition to what you've mentioned, the good nutrition, limiting sugars, eating healthy, limiting toxins, if you were to gift our listeners with something that they can improve their own brain health, in addition to, we also mentioned mindset, is there anything else that our viewers can do and implement after listening to this episode?
Yeah, I think one final thing, you mentioned toxic people. Let's talk about relationships for a little bit. We have a tendency as humans we have the desire to be like those around us. And so there's a saying in personal development, you become the average of the 5 or 6 people you hang around with. And so being with positive people, with healthy people, is going to benefit you in the long run. I mean, if you hang out with people, you're a runner, I like to work out. If you hang out with friends that do those healthy activities, you're going to have a tendency to be healthier. If you hang out with people that drink and smoke and are playing games on the computer all the time, well, that's what you're going to end up doing, and that's not going to be as healthy for your brain. And then community is very important, especially for older people, to maintain that positive social contact with purpose. Being involved with activity groups that you like, tennis or bicycle or anything, wood shop, reading groups, but just groups, religious, spiritual groups, just groups that you can be with people all the time to support each other and have that contact. I mean, as humans, we're designed to be with people, to be a community. And that's something that's very important in maintaining good brain health and good mindset and a happy attitude as we get older. So, there's so many things, and there's no silver bullet. If we can do a little bit of everything, we're going to make incremental steps towards keeping our brains healthy and just being a happier person.
That is just so many nuggets of wisdom right there. Well, and I want to be respectful of your time. I so appreciate you coming back. And thank you for being on Your Health is Your Greatest Wealth. And I would love to have you back. Any final words, Barry?
No, I just encourage people to take their health into their own hands. Everything that we've talked about is pretty simple. You just have to become aware of it and have the discipline and the determination to do it. And a lot of people think that being healthy is expensive. It costs more for organic food, or it costs to join the gym, or whatever the excuse is. But if it's like anything in life. You either pay now and have life easy later, or you have life easy now and you pay later. And if you don't take the initiative to take care of your health when you're younger, or even as you're older, you're going to end up getting chronic diseases, getting sick, and not enjoying life in our golden years, as we call it. So make the decision to take your health in your own hands. Learn about these things. They are simple principles. They may not be easy to implement, yet they're out there. And once you get the notion that you can do it and have the desire to be healthy and more vibrant as you get older, then I think you'll enjoy life much more.
So thank you for that, Barry. Remember, viewers out there, you can take your health into your own hands. This is Blanca with Your Health is Your Greatest Wealth. And thank you for joining us again with another episode. See you next time.